Hello everyone, welcome back to my reviews of the Star Wars movies. Today we're talking about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Here we go. Now Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones is very different for me because I grew up with the prequels. I grew up with all of them. I was always very bored with The Phantom Menace, but Attack of the Clones was always one that I enjoyed as a kid. I have so much nostalgia wrapped up in this movie. So I'm going to have to detach everything I feel about the movie. I feel that it is a great movie. I love the movie, but I have to talk about the fact that it is a pretty major flop in terms of the Star Wars movies. I do enjoy the shit out of it though, but I have to talk about the flaws and the fact that it's horribly paced and shit like that. Now, I said in my last video that I do appreciate these movies a lot more looking back on them now compared to what we have now. We have all the Star Wars movies that are coming out now, and I was talking about how the fact that the new Star Wars movies actually feel like that they're being put together by a blind guy in a doorknob factory, and I still believe that, and I will believe that for the rest of the fucking time. Because I don't really think that Disney I don't feel that Disney is trying to give a compelling story. They're just trying to appease fans at the moment. But yeah. But the prequel movies I do enjoy a lot more because it does feel like actual movies. They feel like they don't feel like actual movies, but they feel like they're actually trying to tell a story. They're trying to tell something that everybody actually wants to know. We want to know the genesis of Darth Vader. We want to understand what made that guy break. What made that guy break? What made that guy just snap? And it was like, you know what? Fuck the Jedi. I'm gonna fuck him up. So let's talk about it. So basically, the plot of this movie is there's an assassin out to. There's a plot. An assassin is trying to kill Padme. So at the start of the movie, it opens with the crawl, and right out the gate there is a problem because in the actual crawl it says the mysterious Count Dooku, even though he was once a Jedi, so he's not really mysterious. He's just Count Dooku that the Jedi know about. Okay, so we'll talk about the things that I liked in this movie. The things that I liked in this movie. One, I do like the actors that are actually in the movie. Ewan McGregor, Samuel L. Jackson, even Hayden Christensen. I enjoy him. I enjoyed the fact that I enjoy him as Anakin Skywalker. Whether or not you believe him as young Darth Vader is just another thing entirely. But I've never had anything against Hayden Christensen. I've actually always enjoyed him as Anakin Skywalker. I actually always thought he was a good character. I always thought he was a good actor for what he had. But we're not getting to the problems yet. Compartmentalize. Work on the good stuff, and then we'll get on to the bad stuff. All right. I also like Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is a good actress, and pretty much the cast in this movie, they're actually really good actors. The problem is with the script that they're given. So we're gonna start on some of the problems. The problem is the script. The dialogue in this movie is abysmal. Just the simple moments where Anakin and Padme are just talking. They're like in a lily field, and they're just like, "Oh, well, how would you have a debate? Or how would you do this shit?" And it's like, why are you doing this? Like, what is the relevance of this shit at all? Like, you're not growing like, you don't feel them growing closer together. You just feel that they're just talking. They're just being actual, not even actual people. They're just chatting. Really shitty dialogue, and there's also the really bad Shakespearean dialogue that they have when they love each other. It's just like, you're in my very soul. Whew. Oh man, even like there are more than a few really creepy moments when it comes to Anakin and Padme. Like Anakin for the most part is just like he's a stalker almost. He has stalker face on him. Every time he's talking, like Padme is just like, don't stare at me like that. He's like, why not? Because it makes me feel uncomfortable. And she walks up and he's just like, sorry, my lady. And he looks so creepy. This is this is a really bad role model to have if you're trying to hit on chicks. I had this as a role model when I was trying to hit on chicks as a kid. Not a good, not, no, never follow this guy. Whew. Some of the creepy shit he does, I swear. And there's like a lot there's a lot of things in this movie that just don't make sense. Like there are elements that just don't make that just are out of the blue. They're just there for the sake of being there. Like the not the Geonosis, the planet that Obi-Wan goes to find all the cloners. He goes there and then he's just like and then he walks in and she's and the big long-haired chick just long-haired chick just looks at long-necked like a giraffe. Looks at him. He's just like, "Welcome, Master Jedi. Come this way. We've been expecting you for a long time." He's like, "I'm expected." It offers the only bit of interest in the movie, but it also becomes one of the biggest flaws in the movie because this character, Master Cypher Dyas, who apparently created all of or who apparently commissioned all the orders to create the clones, is an interesting angle, yes, because it's like, well, who the fuck is that? Who? Oh man, I wish I could edit this shit out. But yeah, he's talking about Master Cypher Dyas, and you're just like looking at that, and you're just like, that is interesting. And then he's just like, well, Master Cypher Dyas, he was killed 10 years ago, and I was like, whoa, 10 years ago? As in Phantom Menace? Phantom Menace 10 years ago? Alright, let's go check that out. And let's go see all the council members and see who Master Cypher Dyas is. And then when he starts talking to Mace Windu and Yoda, he turns around and says, "Oh, well, apparently it was commissioned like 10 years ago, but I was under the impression that he was killed before that. So apparently he's now being killed before the Phantom Menace. So what the fuck?" It's just like, it's conflicting information. One of the some of the biggest flaws that I have with this movie is the fact that it goes against what the original trilogy actually set up, or actually showed us. In the original trilogy, it was told to us that the Force was better than your lightsaber. But in this movie, this movie is just like, no, you hold on to this. This is your life. And it's like, well, apparently the Force is not as good as the lightsaber, because the lightsaber is just better. Because apparently the lightsaber is just so cherishable. And it's even valid, like that particular point of view is validated later on in the movie when Count Dooku and Yoda face off. He's like they're both sparring off. Count Dooku's just like, and Yoda's catching it all, and he's just flying it back, and he's like throwing all the shit back at him. But then Count Dooku's just like, "It is obvious that our skills with the Force is not good enough, but our skills with the lightsaber." And it's like, well, okay, so apparently the lightsaber is just better than the Force. That's what this movie is now telling me. But the other trilogy actually told us that the Force is so much better than the lightsaber. The lightsaber is a byproduct of being a Jedi. You have that to protect yourself, but it's not the thing that makes you a great Jedi. And another big flaw with this movie is the fact that it takes characters that were fan favorites from the other trilogy, the original trilogy, and actually takes away some of the stuff that was so cool about them, like Darth Sidious, or the Emperor, and Yoda. Both characters in this trilogy have lightsabers. In the original trilogy, they were so cool, they were so menacing, or they were so their character was really cool, because they never used a lightsaber. They just had the Force. The Force was what made them so great. Yoda turns around and says, "Well, you don't need a weapon. This is your weapon. This is what the Force is what makes you powerful. The lightsaber is just a byproduct. You have that as whatever." And in the Return of the Jedi, when Darth Sidious, when the Emperor is about to face off with Luke, he doesn't just whip out a lightsaber. It's like, "I'm gonna strike you down, boy." He just turns around. It's like, he just tries to fry him, and he's just like, "Holy mother of God, that just happened." It's like, how the hell do you even fight that? And that was just such a cool moment, because he didn't use a lightsaber like Vader. He used the Force. He just used the Force in such a really powerful way that you're just like, ugh. And it was so cool. but in this trilogy, it takes those cool elements about those characters and makes them irrelevant. So now Yoda has a lightsaber. All right. So back to what I like about this movie. I do like some moments in this movie, like when Anakin is on Tatooine and he's talking and he's trying to save his mother, and he's like holding her in her arms and she dies, and then like you can like that moment always gets me. That moment actually makes me feel like I can understand where Darth Vader is coming from. Like he's a tragedy basically, and more of that in the next movie, but. In this movie, he's starting to realize that if he was a little more powerful, he might have actually been able to save her, and that's actually a really cool element. And then he just whips out his lightsaber and he just hacks down those fucking Tusken Raiders. That was great. Like you don't get to see it all, but it was just like it was such a dark and twisted moment. I was like, yeah, that's yeah. But then, all of the the biggest problem with this movie is the fact that the dialogue is just so terrible, especially the love dialogue. The love dialogue is just so in your face. It's just like they love each other, and it just has to shove it in your face. And it's like nobody talks like this. Like if you turned around and said to anyone, like if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend right now, and you turn around and say to them anything that Anakin says in this or Padme says in this, they would look at you like you're a fucking idiot. Like you just you turn around and say to your boyfriend right now or your girlfriend right now and say, "I truly, deeply love you." See how long that love lasts. Honestly, that it will fade away very quickly. And there are also moments that just don't they don't make sense. Like. The moment that I really turned around and said this is just not right, like after watching the original trilogy and loving the original trilogy so much, and then going back to the other trilogy, into the prequel trilogy, and watching this, and the biggest problem that I have with this movie is the fact that there's no actual conviction in George Lucas's vision. Like George Lucas is the creator of Star Wars. He created such a great thing with the original trilogy, and then with this one he takes all of the great things about that trilogy and just sort of fucks them, throws them aside, and is just like, well, that was cool then, but that's before we have what we have now. The main moment that made me go like that is when Mace Windu turns up on Geonosis with his lightsaber and he whips it out and it's purple. So apparently there's just no reason for why Luke Skywalker then first had a blue one, then had a green one, why Obi-Wan had a blue one, and Qui-Gon had a green one. Like why not have a purple one? Why doesn't everyone have a purple one? And the reason that there is a purple one in Star Wars is because Samuel L. Jackson just turns around and says, "Well, I want a purple one," and George Lucas was just like, "Yeah, okay, you get a purple one, cool. You're a famous actor. It's not like that. There's a point for why everything is the way it is, but Samuel L. Jackson wants one, so you got one. Good on you, Samuel L. Jackson. You fucked a franchise. It's not true. I love you, Samuel L. Jackson. Please don't kill me." But it's just so frustrating because it's like that was such a cool thing in the original trilogy. It felt like there was a system for the colors, the blue, the green, the red. It just felt like there was a point and purpose for it all. In this trilogy, it just doesn't feel like there's any point and purpose to any of it. It just feels like there's just like, well, you want a purple lightsaber? Well, here's a purple lightsaber. Or you want a red one? Well, you can be a Jedi. You can have a red one. It's like, okay, so what's the point? Where is the line in the sand? Like, you just is there a red one? Is there a purple one? Is there a yellow one? What, is there a black one? Don't make a black one. Don't make a white one either. Jesus. But yeah, one thing I didn't touch on in my last video about the Phantom Menace is the Darth Maul fight at the end of the movie. And that one, a lot of people were just like, that is way too choreographed. Like it looks like they're dancing. I enjoyed the shit out of it, and I forgot to mention it in my last video, but still, whatever. But in this movie, they just cut back on the choreograph, and they just, yeah, it's like, yeah, like they just took whatever they just. It feels like they fired the choreographer. Like they were just like, you know what, you choreographed that way too much. You're fired. All right, wait. What? You're a dance? You're a what? You? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, hire that guy. That guy knows what he's doing. And at first it's kind of alright because they just and they just fight. They're just like they're actually fighting. But then when it gets to the Anakin and Count Dooku, it was like, oh man, like the light. They cut out the lights, and then they just have the lightsabers flashing by their faces like boom, 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 boom. It was like, okay, George Lucas, I know what you were going for right there, but you really didn't hit it. You did not at all, because it's like that like he just, I don't even know what he was trying to do there. He just like like it flying by his face. It's like are they fighting or are they just flying it in front of their face? Just like ooh, it just didn't look cool at all. It just looked so strange. But yeah. But there are also moments that just feel like they come out of nowhere. Story behind this one is apparently there needed to be an action sequence in this situation, so George Lucas just wrote it in there, and that's the conveyor belt scene where they just get to Geonosis, and then like they're walking down a corridor, and he's just like, and he just starts hacking down these things, and it's like, where the fuck did this come from? Like why is this happening? It felt like a thing out of a video game. It felt like I have played the recent Star Wars game, and it is a great game. If you haven't played that, you should go play it. Like go play like now, now, like walk away from this and go get it, like and then go play it. Or if you already have it, go and play it. Just go. You know, like this part right here would be a part that I would edit out so it would look a little better, like it'll look a little smoother, but you know, I don't have the equipment for that yet. I will get there. That's another part. Okay, so in the end, Attack of the Clones does have a few moments that I enjoy. I do because I have so much nostalgia wrapped up in it. I loved it as a kid. I wanted I went out of my way to ask my mom to buy this movie when I was a kid just so that I could watch it. I loved this movie as a kid. I also loved Batman and Robin as a kid. Yeah, I do change. Like things do change my mind, and these movies were one of them. This movie was just one of them. Like I watched this movie like a few years ago after having not watched it in a while. Watched it and was blown away by how poorly it was created and how it just didn't have Star Wars. It just felt like a movie that was made for money, cash grab, a lot like Solo: A Star Wars Story. Oh my god, I'm not talking about Solo: A Star Wars Story. I refuse to watch that again. I absolutely refuse to watch that again. But yeah, there are problems with this movie, like a lot of problems, but I do enjoy some of the moments in it. The dialogue is terrible, and some of the action sequences are enjoyable to watch, and I can watch it if it's like in the background somewhere. Or like it will lose me at times. Like I would just be whipping out my phone and just be like, yep, all right, oh, action sequence, cool. Out the dialogue, so cool. Back to my phone. This movie, okay, this movie is worth watching with some of your attention. I said I put that rating for the last movie, but that movie is just like it would lose you. Like it would lose you for most of that. It's a Star Wars movie, so you're still gonna watch it because it's fucking Star Wars, and you know, it's Star Wars. Anyway, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, please click the subscribe button. Please click the like button. Please just put a comment down there. Like, get it rolling. Start talking. Let's go. Anyway, catch you later, fellas and ladies and